Casino in northern New South Wales was fortunate in being able to hold the Deadly Days Festival 2010 on September 1st. Deadly Days, as it is known, is held as part of the Australian Government's Community Festivals for Education Engagement initiative and was hosted by the North Coast Aboriginal Learning Partnerships of North Coast TAFE. The festival aim was to increase education, employment and training opportunities for young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and also to promote positive and healthy lifestyles. With previous headline acts including Australian Idol contestant Jessica Malboy, this year's Deadly Days was advertised to include Stan Walker, the 2009 Australian Idol winner, international football identities Wendell Saylor and Arthur Beetson, as well as many more well-known Indigenous identities including Ernie Dingo. The festival was heralded as a come one, come all event, with performances, popular hip-hop workshops and sessions with sporting heroes, as well as showcasing an array of healthy cultural food. With Indigenous Australians more likely to drop out of secondary school before completion, such dropout rates may be reduced by a better start to their formal schooling through attendance at quality preschools responsive to their needs. Research suggests the early years of life are significant in setting children's trajectories. While families and communities are central, early childhood settings have a powerful impact on children. Educators can support success by valuing children's identity and culture and providing opportunities for children to discover and explore cultural connections, keeping in mind that being proud and strong is central to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children's success in learning. Working with children in preschool of ages between 3 and 5 years old, educators need to provide fast and dynamic learning opportunities to cater to children's short attention spans and individual interests and requirements. The Early Years Learning Framework puts children's learning at the core and comprises 3 interrelated elements: principles, practice, and learning outcomes. All 3 elements are fundamental to early childhood pedagogy and curriculum decision making. Principle 4 of the Early Years Learning Framework, respect for diversity, where children are born belonging to a culture which is not only influenced by traditional practices, heritage and ancestral knowledge, but also by the experiences, values and beliefs of individual families and communities. With practice, there is cultural competence. Educators who are culturally competent respect multiple cultural ways of knowing, seeing and living, celebrate the benefits of diversity and have an ability to understand and honour differences. Cultural competence encompasses being aware of one's own worldview, developing positive attitudes towards cultural differences, gaining knowledge of different cultural practices and world views, developing skills for communication and interaction across cultures. And the learning outcomes I would look at specifically would be outcome 1, children have a strong sense of identity, and outcome 5, children are effective communicators. I would begin the activities with a simple experience of getting the children to look at the differences between each other's hands and listing these differences on a large piece of paper to be displayed in the room. I would discuss the differences we found with the hands activity and talk about being Indigenous and how can we tell if somebody is Indigenous. Is it as easy as looking at someone and making a decision, or is there more to it? I would then get the children to look at some pictures and guess if the children in the pictures were Indigenous or non-Indigenous. There may be some very surprising results. I would then talk to the children about what makes us different from each other and ask them to think about their families and who makes up their individual family. Getting the children to bring in a picture of their family to build a family tree on the display wall of the learning environment will help the children to visualize the differences between children's home lives. I would introduce music and movement into the learning environment through the Happy to Be Me CD and Teacher's Resource Book by Wendy Notley. There are many songs and activities within that enable the educator to incorporate Indigenous perspectives into the learning environment and to assist Indigenous children and their families to feel comfortable within the formal learning atmosphere of the service within which I work. One song in particular, Kids on Our Block, involves the four seasons experienced in many parts of Australia. I would talk to the children about climate and how it affects where we live. Discuss the Aboriginal English words in the song. Mob, which is a group of people who belong together, and deadly, cool, great, fantastic, tying in with deadly days. I'd practice saying Indigenous with the children and explain what this means. And what other words could we substitute? Promote discussion about playing fair, sharing, and the role of older children looking after younger ones. How do children in the song play in the Indigenous way? And who do you think taught them? Do non-Indigenous children play like this too? How do you play with your friends? Promote discussion about elders and explain that an elder is an older person who has recognised knowledge, authority and respect within the community. Talk to the children about respect and how we show it. Elders have permission to teach others about the way things are done in their culture. Talk to the children about some of the knowledge that elders pass on. For example, knowledge about dreaming, family, the land, plants and animals. And read stories to the children that involve elders sharing knowledge. Invite an elder of the local Indigenous people to come into the service to tell some Dreamtime stories and talk about their lifestyle. I would cover the differences we have learned about the Indigenous people in our area, as well as any other differences that the children have brought forward. And I'd ask the children if the differences make them any better than anybody else. And I'd finish my group of activities with an experience of the children walking through sand. Because no matter where we come from, we all leave the same footprints.